The night started with a text. Simple, unassuming, yet it sent a chill through Daniel's spine. The night started with a text. Simple, unassuming, yet it sent a chill through Daniel's spine. You have no idea who your wife really is. No sender. Just a blocked number. He stared at the screen, his heart pounding as if it already knew something his mind refused to accept. Samantha, his wife of 9 years, was in the living room, scrolling through Instagram with a bored expression, her long, manicured nails tapping rhythmically against the glass of her wine glass. She had been distant lately, moody, impatient, but Daniel had attributed it to stress, the monotony of marriage, maybe even hormones. But now, something gnawed at him. Sam, he called from the kitchen. She didn't look up. What? He hesitated. He could just ignore the text. Or, who have you been talking to? He asked. She finally turned, raising a perfectly shaped brow. What kind of question is that? Just curious. He forced a smile, but her gaze lingered a little too long before she looked back at her phone. That night, lying in bed, Daniel couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. He turned toward her, watching as she breathed evenly in her sleep, or at least, pretending to. Her phone was under her pillow, something she had never done before. The first shock came 2 days later. Daniel was at work when his colleague, Greg, slapped him on the back and chuckled. Dude, didn't know your wife was into car stuff. Daniel frowned. She isn't. Greg pulled out his phone and showed a video. It was from Jackson Reed, one of the biggest automotive influencers on YouTube. Millions of followers. Handsome. Cocky. The kind of guy who exuded arrogance and charm in equal measure. In the video, Jackson was showing off a customized Porsche, but what made Daniel's blood run cold was the figure in the background, Samantha. She wasn't just there. She was laughing, flirting, a hand on Jackson's shoulder as he leaned in, whispering something in her ear. She giggled, playfully shoving him away. It was a level of intimacy Daniel hadn't seen in years. Greg, oblivious, whistled. Man, she's in deep with that guy. Didn't know she liked this kind of scene. Daniel forced a chuckle, his stomach twisting into knots. That night, Samantha came home late. It was the 3rd time this week. Where were you? Daniel asked casually. She didn't hesitate. With Melissa. Wine night. Daniel's jaw tightened. He had checked. Melissa had posted a story at home, in pajamas. Without Sam. Oh, funny. Melissa was home. For the briefest second, Samantha's expression flickered. Then, just as quickly, she scoffed. She probably posted late. We were together. You're being paranoid. Then she walked into the bathroom, locking the door behind her. The next shocking moment came the following weekend. Daniel decided to follow her. Not out of jealousy. Out of necessity. She had told him she was going to a spa weekend with her girlfriends, but something told him otherwise. He trailed her car as she drove out of town. His stomach churned when she pulled into a sleek, modern house, Jackson Reed's house. She didn't hesitate. She didn't check her surroundings. She walked straight inside like she belonged there. For 4 hours, Daniel sat in his car, gripping the wheel, rage and confusion battling inside him. Then, the final blow. A black Mercedes pulled up. A guy stepped out, one of Jackson's close friends, Liam Carter, another social media influencer. The man grinned, then casually slapped Samantha's ass as he walked past her. She didn't react, didn't slap him, didn't even look offended. Daniel's stomach lurched. Who was his wife? This was just the beginning. The lies, the deception, and Daniel's descent into a nightmare he never saw coming. Daniel's mind was a storm as he drove back home. He had seen it with his own eyes. Samantha at Jackson Reed's house, welcoming a slap on her ass like it was nothing. But what did it mean? Was she cheating? Or was this some sick game he didn't understand yet? He needed proof. He needed more than just a gut feeling. But what disturbed him even more was the way Samantha acted completely normal when she got home that night. She walked in, casually tossing her purse on the counter. The spa was amazing. You should try it sometime, she said with a tired smile, stretching. Daniel clenched his jaw. He could still see her in his mind, laughing with Jackson, standing too close, letting another man touch her like she was his. Yeah, he said, forcing his voice to sound even. What did you do? She poured herself a glass of wine. Massages, facial, hot tub. The usual girl stuff. Lies. Every damn word. He wanted to explode. But he knew better. If she was lying, then the worst thing he could do was let her know he was onto her. So he smiled, nodded, acted like the oblivious husband she thought he was. But inside, something was cracking. The next day, Daniel started digging. He checked Samantha's social media, looking for any signs. But her posts were curated, too perfect. A picture of a sunset, a coffee cup, random quotes about self-care. Nothing real. Then he checked Jackson Reed's Instagram. His blood ran cold. A photo from last night, Jackson, Liam, and a few others at his house. The caption, nothing like a good night with real ones. And there, barely visible in the background, was Samantha's purse on the couch. She had been there, and she had been stupid enough to let herself get caught. But what really made his stomach twist was the comments section. Some of Jackson's followers were asking about a mystery woman. Who's that hottie in the back? New girl, Jax? Damn, she fine. Spotted her in a few vids lately. Eyes, who is she? Jackson hadn't responded. But the fact that people were noticing meant this wasn't just a one-time thing. More players enter the game. The confusion deepened when Daniel got an unexpected text. Melissa, Samantha's best friend, the one she claimed to be with during her girls' nights. Melissa, hey, can we talk? Daniel hesitated before replying. About what? Melissa, not over text. Can we meet? This was bad. Or maybe good? They met later that evening at a quiet coffee shop. Melissa looked nervous, playing with her ring, biting her lip. Daniel, she exhaled. I don't know how to say this, but something's off with Sam. He sat up straight. Go on. Melissa hesitated, then leaned in. She's lying to you. Daniel felt his chest tighten. You know something? I don't know everything, Melissa admitted, but I haven't seen her in weeks. Every time she tells you she's with me, she's not. And I've heard things. His fingers curled into fists. What kind of things? Melissa swallowed hard. She's been seen with Jackson Reed. A lot. People are talking. I didn't want to believe it, but I think she's involved with him. His whole body went rigid. Why are you telling me this? He asked slowly. Melissa sighed. Because I don't like being part of her cover-up. And because, honestly, she's changed. She's not the same Samantha I was friends with. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, breathing heavily. I need proof. Melissa hesitated, then said, I might know someone who can help you with that. The someone Melissa was talking about turned out to be Aaron Steele, a smaller YouTuber who had a rivalry with Jackson Reed. Aaron was known for exposing influencers, calling them out for their fake lives, shady deals, and secret affairs. When Daniel met him, Aaron had a cocky smirk. So, you think your wife is screwing Jackson? Daniel gritted his teeth. I need to know the truth. Aaron laughed. Man, you're already halfway there. But I can help. You see, I've got dirt on Jackson. Lots of it. And if your wife is part of his little circle, she's probably caught on camera somewhere. He pulled out his laptop and started scrolling through raw, unedited footage from car events, behind-the-scenes vlogs, private parties that Jackson never actually posted. And then there she was. A video clip of a party, taken from an angle Jackson never published. The audio wasn't clear, but the body language was unmistakable. Samantha, sitting next to Jackson, whispering in his ear, while his hand rested on her thigh. Daniel clenched his jaw so hard it hurt. Want more? Aaron asked, clicking on another file. This one was worse. Samantha, at a car garage, wrapping her arms around Jackson from behind while he laughed, talking about his girl. Daniel stood up so fast the chair nearly fell over. Send me everything, he growled. Aaron smirked. Thought you'd say that. Daniel didn't go home that night. He sat in his car, watching the videos over and over, letting the images burn into his brain. His wife wasn't just cheating. She was living a double life. The expensive clothes, the sudden obsession with luxury cars, the nights away, the little lies. It all made sense now. She had fallen for the glamour, the fake world of influencers, fast cars, and empty fame, and she had thrown him away for it. But she didn't know that he knew. Not yet. And that was the only thing keeping him from losing his mind. Because now, it was his turn to play. Daniel had always believed that if his marriage ever crumbled, it would be over something normal. Money problems, growing apart, maybe even an argument that went too far. But not this. Not a secret life. Not his wife wrapped around a YouTube celebrity, playing the role of his hidden mistress. He spent the next few days in complete silence, moving through his routine like nothing was wrong. But inside, his mind was working nonstop. He couldn't confront Samantha yet. If he did, she'd lie, make excuses, cry, try to flip the blame onto him. No, he needed something undeniable, proof so overwhelming that when he finally confronted her, she wouldn't have a single way out. And then, when she was at her most vulnerable, he'd destroy her. Melissa had given him a lead. Aaron had given him video proof. Now, Daniel needed something live, something real, a trap. That week, he told Samantha he was going on a business trip, a last-minute thing, far away. Her reaction? A little too casual. "Oh, when are you leaving?" she asked, pouring coffee, not even looking at him. "Friday night." She nodded, barely listening. "That's fine. I'll probably just have a girls' night." Lies. Melissa wasn't part of it. That much was clear. And if Daniel's instincts were right, she wasn't planning a girls' night at all. She was planning a night with Jackson. Perfect. Daniel's business trip was fake, but he made sure to sell it well. He left his luggage by the door, booked a fake flight just in case Samantha checked his emails, even had his boss casually mention the trip at work. Then, on Friday night, he drove to the airport, but never got on a plane. Instead, he parked in an off-site lot, changed into dark clothes, and drove straight back home. His heart pounded. If he was wrong, if this was all paranoia, but no, he wasn't wrong. He could feel it in his bones. He parked a few blocks away and walked toward the house, staying in the shadows. The lights were on, and then his stomach dropped, because parked in his driveway was a black Porsche 911, Jackson's car. Daniel clenched his fists so hard his nails dug into his palms. He walked closer, slowly, carefully. From inside, he heard music, laughter, and then her voice. Samantha, his wife, giggling, whispering, moaning. Daniel had imagined this moment 100 times, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality. His wife, in their home, with another man. Everything inside him snapped, but he didn't kick down the door. He didn't explode. No, that wasn't the plan. Instead, he pulled out his phone and started recording. Every sound, every laugh, every moment of betrayal. This wasn't just about catching her. This was about ruining her. He recorded for an hour. Just enough. Then, he walked back to his car and sent Samantha a text. "Daniel, hey, just landed. How's your night?" He waited. Inside the house, he saw movement. Samantha scrambling to grab her phone. A few seconds later, she replied, "Samantha, miss you. Just watching Netflix and getting ready for bed. Hope your flight was okay." Daniel stared at the screen, a dark smile curling his lips. "Netflix. Right," he replied. "Love you. See you soon." Then, without another word, he drove away. Because the real game was only just beginning. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He sat in his car, listening to the recording over and over. Every sound, every breath, every disgusting whisper from Samantha and Jackson. He had proof. Undeniable. Unforgivable. And now, it was time for her world to shatter. When he finally returned home the next morning, Samantha was in the kitchen, dressed in one of his oversized shirts, acting like nothing had happened. "Hey babe," she said, smiling as she poured coffee. "How was your trip?" Daniel forced himself to stay calm, stay in control. "It was fine," he said, taking a sip of coffee, watching her closely. She looked so normal, so effortlessly good at lying, and it made him sick. "You okay?" she asked, tilting her head. He nodded, smiling. "Yeah, I missed you." Samantha's face softened, and she walked over, wrapping her arms around his waist. The same hands that had been all over Jackson last night. His skin crawled, but he didn't pull away, because she had no idea what was coming. Daniel spent the day pretending everything was normal. He laughed, he kissed her, he even made her favorite dinner. And the whole time, Samantha looked at him like she loved him, like she wasn't sneaking off with another man every chance she got. But Daniel had one last move to make. He invited friends over that evening, Melissa, Greg from work, and a few others. He needed witnesses. And, more importantly, he needed Samantha to think she was safe. The stage was set. Everyone was sitting in the living room, chatting, drinks in hand, when Daniel stood up. "Hey, before we go any further," he said, "I have a little surprise." Samantha looked at him curiously. "A surprise?" she repeated, sipping her wine. Daniel smiled. "Yeah, I put together a little video. Thought we could all watch." He grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. The screen flickered. And then, her voice filled the room. Jackson, you're so bad." The laughter stopped. The conversation died instantly. Samantha's face drained of color. On the screen, the recording played. Her giggles. Jackson's voice. The unmistakable sounds of betrayal. Melissa gasped. Greg's drink slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. And Samantha? She froze. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice shaking. What is this?" Daniel stared at her, his expression ice cold. "This, Sam," he said, "is what you've been doing while telling me you were watching Netflix." Tears welled in her eyes. "It's not, I can explain." "Shut." His voice was so calm, so dangerously quiet, that Samantha flinched. Everyone in the room was silent, their eyes bouncing between Daniel and Samantha like a train wreck they couldn't look away from. "You weren't at a spa," Daniel continued, stepping closer. "You weren't with Melissa. You were in his house. You were in our house. With Jackson Reed. Lying to me. Playing me for a fool." Samantha broke. Tears streamed down her face as she covered her mouth, shaking her head frantically. "Daniel, please," she sobbed. "It didn't mean anything. It was just stupid. Just shut up," he repeated, his voice cutting through the air like a blade. Melissa looked disgusted. "You used me as an alibi," she whispered, shaking her head. Greg, still in shock, muttered, "Jesus Christ, Samantha?" Samantha fell to her knees. "I love you, Daniel," she cried. "I love you, I swear. I made a mistake, but please, please don't do this." Daniel crouched down so their eyes were level. "You think this is bad," he murmured. Her lips trembled. He leaned in closer. "Just wait," he whispered. And then, he stood up, turned off the TV, and walked away, leaving her sobbing on the floor, her entire world collapsing around her. But this was only the beginning of her suffering. Samantha was a wreck after the confrontation. She begged, cried, tried to explain. But there was no coming back from this. Not after the lies. Not after the disrespect. And Daniel? He wasn't just going to leave her. He was going to destroy her. Step 1. Public humiliation. The recording was just the beginning. Daniel leaked it anonymously, posting the audio on a throwaway social media account, tagging Jackson Reed, ensuring that his millions of followers would hear it. The internet exploded. People recognized her voice. They connected the dots. Is this Jackson's mystery girl? This is disgusting. She was married? Imagine ruining your life over some influencer clown. Samantha's DMs were flooded with hate. Jackson? He didn't even acknowledge her. He posted a PR statement calling it a private matter and unfollowed her on everything. She was nothing to him. And now? She was nothing to anyone. Step 2. Financial destruction. Daniel drained their joint accounts before filing for divorce. Every credit card she had access to? Canceled. The house? His. He had been the one paying for it, and thanks to a prenup, she wouldn't get a cent. She was suddenly broke, forced to move out with nowhere to go. Melissa? Gone. Her friends? Humiliated to be associated with her. She had no job, no savings, and no way to maintain the expensive lifestyle she had built with Jackson. And Jackson? He wasn't answering her calls. She had given up everything for him. And now? She had nothing. Step 3. Psychological destruction. Daniel wasn't done. Samantha needed to feel what he felt. So, he let her suffer. He let her sit in the ruins of her own choices. The last time he saw her, she was standing outside their house, crying in the rain, begging him to talk to her. "Daniel, please," she sobbed, soaking wet, mascara running down her face. "I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have anyone." Daniel stared at her, his expression cold and empty. "You should have thought about that," he said, and shut the door in her face. That was the last time he ever spoke to her. Samantha's life was ruined. She lost everything, her marriage, her home, her friends, her reputation. And Daniel? He moved on, stronger, smarter, free. And Samantha? She would spend the rest of her life living in the wreckage of her own betrayal. And that was the real punishment. Thank you for listening to the story to the end. Please like, share your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel.